The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched as far as the human eye could see. Strange beings from across the galaxy sat in floating chairs that moved without sound. Some looked like walking crystals that caught the light and threw rainbows across the walls. Others were clouds of colored gas that somehow spoke through machines. The mechanical ones clicked and whirred as they talked to each other in computer language. John Carter stood in the center of it all. He wore his best diplomatic uniform, the dark blue one with the Earth symbol on his chest. His hands shook a little, but he kept them at his sides. Behind him stood Lisa Brooks, a military woman with scars on her face and eyes that had seen too much war. The human delegation looked very small in this place. Carter knew that every alien in the room thought humans were weak. They controlled only 7 star systems. Their ships were old and slow compared to the alien vessels. Most of the galaxy saw Earth as a young world full of primitive people who had just learned to travel between stars. High Counselor Vrex spoke first. He was one of the crystal beings, tall as 3 humans and covered in sharp edges that sparkled when he moved. When he talked, his voice sounded like glass breaking, but the translation machines turned it into words Carter could understand. "Human representative," Vrex said, and Carter could hear the dismissal in his voice. "You have requested time before this council. State your business quickly. We have important matters to discuss." Carter stepped forward. He had practiced this speech for months, but standing here now, surrounded by beings who could crush humanity, without thinking twice, the words felt heavy in his mouth. "Honored council members," he began, his voice carrying across the vast hall. "I am Ambassador John Carter, speaking for all humanity. We come before you today to request protection under the Neutral Species Accord. We want only peace. We want to trade with your people and learn from your great civilizations." A sound filled the hall that made Carter's skin crawl. It was laughter, but not the kind humans made. The crystal beings made sounds like wind chimes in a storm. The gas creatures hissed and bubbled. The mechanical ones produced electronic squeals that hurt to hear. Counselor Zeth-9 spoke next. It was one of the machine beings, all smooth metal and glowing lights. Its voice came out flat and emotionless, like a computer reading a shopping list. "Human Carter," it said. "Our analysis shows your species controls minimal territory. Your military strength ranks below that of 17 council member species. Your technology is outdated by our standards. What could you possibly offer in exchange for our protection?" Carter felt his jaw tighten. This was the part he had dreaded. Earth's leaders had been very clear about what he should say, but he knew how it would sound to these powerful beings. "We offer our knowledge," he said slowly. "Our people are good at solving problems. We adapt quickly to new situations. We learn fast." He paused, knowing the next words were important. "And we offer a restraint." More laughter echoed through the hall. This time it was louder and crueler. "Restraint?" Vrex's crystal form flashed brighter. "What could humans possibly need to restrain? Your entire military could not threaten a single council defense fleet." Lisa Brooks stepped forward then. Carter had hoped she would not need to speak, but he could see the anger building in her eyes. Her military career had been spent fighting in the colonial wars on the edge of human space. She had seen what happened when peaceful people were pushed too far. "Distinguished beings," Brooks said, and her voice carried something that made the translation machine stutter. "Humanity has fought many wars. We have learned hard lessons about conflict. We have learned to control our more aggressive impulses." She paused, looking around the room at all the alien faces watching her. "We strongly advise the Council not to test our commitment to peace." The hall fell quiet for a moment. Then Zeth-9's lights flickered in what Carter had learned was the machine equivalent of amusement. "Threat assessment complete," the mechanical being announced. "Human military capability insufficient to warrant concern. Probability of successful resistance to council member actions, less than 3%. Counselor Vrex rose from his floating chair. His crystal body caught the light from the hall's many sources and threw patterns across the walls that somehow looked angry. "The Council has heard your request, humans," he said. "It is denied. Your species offers nothing of value and poses no credible threat. This session is concluded. Carter felt his heart sink, but he had one more thing to say. His government had been very specific about this final message. Counselor Vrex, he called out as the alien delegates began to leave their seats. Before we go, my government asked me to make one thing very clear. The crystal being paused, turning, those sharp-edged features toward the human. Humanity has spent a very long time learning to be peaceful, Carter said, his voice carrying to every corner of the great hall. We have worked hard to control our anger. We have chosen to solve problems with words instead of weapons. But that choice requires cooperation from others. Brooke stepped up beside him, and when she spoke, her voice was quiet, but somehow more frightening than if she had shouted. We are asking nicely, she said. We hope that will be enough. We hope the galaxy will not force humanity to remember the lessons we learned before we became peaceful. The aliens were listening now, though most still looked amused by what they saw as empty threats from a weak species. Carter delivered his final words, the ones Earth's president had made him memorize exactly. We have tried to warn you, he said. If the day comes when you force us to abandon our peaceful ways, remember that we tried to tell you first. Remember that we asked for your protection because we were trying to protect you from us. The hall erupted in laughter again, but this time Carter and Brooks simply turned and walked away. They had delivered their message. They had given the galaxy a chance to do the right thing. As they left the Great Hall, Carter's final words echoed through the translation systems in dozens of alien languages. We tried to warn you. Please remember that we tried. Behind them, the council delegates continued laughing, already forgetting the strange little speech from the primitive humans. They had no idea that in a few short months, they would remember every word Carter had spoken, and wish they had listened. 3 months passed after the council rejected humanity's request. The alien delegates went back to their homeworlds and forgot about the small species that had dared to ask for protection. They had bigger things to worry about than humans. But humans did not forget. Captain Roy Davis was hauling medical supplies to the frontier world of Haven's Rest when the Vorthak raiders found him. His ship, the New Frontier, was old and slow, built for carrying cargo instead of fighting. Davis had been a soldier once, but that was years ago. Now he just wanted to make honest money moving goods between the human colonies. The cargo hold was full of medicine. A plague had broken out on Haven's Rest and people were dying. Davis and his crew of 12 had volunteered to make the dangerous run through space that was not protected by any government. They knew the risks, but someone had to help. The Vorthak ship appeared on his scanners like a bad dream. It was sleek and dangerous, covered in crystal spikes that could slice through hull metal. The alien voice came through his radio, cold and sharp. Human vessel, this is Vorthak Commander Crix. You will stop your ship and prepare to be boarded. Your cargo now belongs to us. Davis looked at his crew. Most of them were young people from farming worlds, kids who had never seen real combat. His engineer, Pete Collins, was barely 20 years old. His navigator, Mary Johnson, still had pictures of her family taped to her console. Vorthak ship, Davis replied, trying to keep his voice steady. We are carrying medical supplies under the neutral trade agreement. These medicines are going to sick people who will die without them. The alien laughed, a sound like breaking glass that made everyone on the bridge wince. Your species has no protection under council law, Crix said. Your agreements mean nothing. Surrender your cargo or we will take it from your wreckage. Davis felt his old soldier instincts kick in. He had fought in the colony wars, back when humans were still learning how to survive in space. He had seen what happened to people who gave up without a fight. All hands, battle stations, he announced over the ship's intercom. Seal the cargo hold. Send a distress signal to Earth Command. The fight was short and brutal. The New Frontier had only light weapons meant for scaring off pirates, not fighting military ships. The Vorthak raider tore through their shields like paper and punched holes in their hull with crystal spears that moved faster than bullets. Davis died at his captain's chair, still trying to protect his cargo. Pete Collins died trying to keep the engines running. Mary Johnson died sending the distress signal that would tell Earth what had happened here. All 12 crew members fought until the end. The Vorthak took their medicine and left their bodies, floating in space, The attack on the new frontier was just the beginning. Across human space, alien raiders began hitting colonies and ships. They seemed to target the weakest settlements first, places where families had built farms on distant worlds. On the agricultural world of New Kansas, Kellen Murphy was working in his fields when the sky filled with alien ships. They were Nethrim vessels, looking like floating clouds of poison gas. The Murphy family had been growing food on New Kansas for 3 generations, turning empty land into fertile farms. Kellen's wife, Susan, was hanging laundry when the first gas bombs fell. His 8-year-old daughter, Amy, was playing in the yard with her dog. His teenage son, Jake, was fixing the tractor in the barn. The Nethrim did not want the crops. They wanted to send a message. When the gas cleared, the Murphy farm was silent. Kellen, Susan, and Jake were found dead in their yard, killed by alien poison that burned their lungs from the inside. Amy survived only because she had been playing in the old storm shelter when the attack began. She hid there for 3 days before human rescue teams found her. The little girl's testimony was simple and terrible. The aliens had laughed when her father begged them to stop. They had laughed when her mother screamed. They thought human suffering was funny. Similar attacks happened across the frontier. The aliens seemed to enjoy targeting civilians, especially families with children. They would broadcast the attacks to other worlds, showing human colonies burning while alien voices laughed in the background. Ambassador Carter was still on the neutral station called Crossroads when the reports started coming in. His aide, Commander Paul Richards, brought him the casualty numbers with shaking hands. 17 colonies hit in the past month, sir, Richards said. We have lost over 50,000 civilians. They are not just stealing cargo anymore. They are killing families for sport. Carter stared at the holographic display showing human space. Red dots marked each attack, spreading like a disease across the frontier. The pattern was clear. The aliens were testing humanity's response, seeing how far they could push before the humans fought back. Has Earth responded to our request for military support? Carter asked. President Hayes has authorized full mobilization, Richards replied. Admiral Kate Morgan is being recalled from deep space. All reserve fleets are being activated. Sir, they are implementing Protocol 7. Carter felt a chill run down his spine. Protocol 7 was humanity's plan for species-level warfare, something they had hoped never to use. It meant Earth was preparing for a war that could destroy entire civilizations. Send one final message to the Council, Carter said. Tell them that humanity formally requests immediate intervention to stop these attacks on our civilians. Make it clear that this is their last chance to handle this diplomatically. Richards nodded and started typing the message. Both men knew what the Council's response would be, but they had to try one more time. The Council's reply arrived 6 hours later. Human complaints are noted but considered outside Council authority. Actions by individual species in unclaimed territories are sovereign matters not subject to Council interference. Carter read the message twice, then looked at Richards. The commander's face was hard with anger, but his eyes showed something else. Relief that the talking was finally over. Send a response, Carter said quietly. Tell them we tried to warn them. Tell them we asked them not to make us angry. Tell them that what happens next is their choice, not ours. As Richards sent the final diplomatic message, Carter looked out at the stars and wondered if any of the aliens realized what they had awakened. Humanity had spent centuries learning to control their anger, to solve problems with words instead of weapons. But some problems could not be solved with words. Some enemies only understood force. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had worked so hard to become peaceful, and why that peace had always been a choice they could abandon if necessary. The aliens had killed human children and laughed about it. They had rejected every attempt at peace and diplomacy. Now they would face the consequences of awakening humanity's anger. The war was about to begin. Deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon, Admiral Kate Morgan stood in a room that officially did not exist. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps, ship positions, and weapons data that would have shocked the galaxy if they knew it existed. For 200 years, humanity had been building in secret, preparing for a war they hoped would never come. Status report, Colonel. Morgan said to the man beside her. Colonel Steve Walsh had spent his entire career in the shadows, managing humanity's most classified projects. His face was calm, but his eyes showed the satisfaction of a man whose life's work was finally being put to use. "All assets are in position, Admiral," Walsh reported. "The Wraith fleet has returned from deep space. Ghost Division has completed infiltration of primary alien targets. Project Prometheus is online and ready for deployment." Morgan studied the tactical displays. The ships shown on these screens were not the old cargo vessels and patrol boats that the galaxy had seen. These were warships built in hidden yards in the empty space between stars, powered by reactors that pushed the laws of physics to their limits, armed with weapons designed to kill beings who thought they were untouchable. "What about civilian evacuations?" Morgan asked. "Complete as of 0800 hours, Walsh replied. "Every human civilian has been moved to protected worlds or evacuation ships. We are ready to move to Phase 2 of Protocol 7. Dr. Helen Price approached, with a data tablet in her hands. She was humanity's chief expert on alien biology, though her real job was far more deadly than most people knew. For decades, her teams had studied every alien species they encountered, learning their weaknesses and how to exploit them. "Admiral, we have completed analysis of all Council species," Dr. Price said. "Biological, psychological, and technological. Vulnerability assessments are finished and uploaded to all fleet commanders. If we are really going to do this—" "We are, Doctor," Morgan said, her voice hard as steel. "They killed our children. They laughed when we asked for peace. They think we are weak." She gestured to the screens around them. "They are about to learn how wrong they are." Morgan activated the communication system that connected her to every human military unit in the galaxy. Her voice would reach ships hidden in asteroid belts, special forces teams on alien worlds, and sleeper agents who had been waiting years for this moment. "This is Admiral Morgan to all units," she began. "Operation Nemesis is now active. The aliens have rejected our final offer of peace. They have chosen war. Show them what happens when they force humanity to stop being nice." The first phase of humanity's response began at exactly the same time across 17 star systems. Captain Dan Brooks commanded the stealth destroyer Retribution as it dropped out of hyperspace above the Vorthak military base on Shard Prime. His ship had been invisible to alien sensors for the entire journey, using technology that humanity had developed by studying captured alien equipment and improving it far beyond its original capabilities. "All weapons free," Brooks commanded his crew. "Target their fleet anchorage first. Remember what they did to Captain Davis and his people." The Retribution and her sister ships had been designed using the best technology from every alien species humanity had encountered. Their weapons could punch through alien shields like they were made of paper. Their armor could absorb energy blasts that would vaporize most alien ships. The Vorthak defense fleet, caught completely by surprise, lasted exactly 11 minutes. On the gas world of Typhon, Major Rachel Green led Ghost Division in their specialty, making enemies afraid of the dark. The Nethrim were beings made of living gas who floated through their planet's thick atmosphere in great cities held up by ancient machines. They thought they were safe in their sky palaces, protected by technology and distance. They were wrong. Green's teams had been infiltrating Nethrim territory for months, learning how their atmospheric processors worked, mapping their cities and identifying their leaders. Now, as explosions began to rock the floating cities, the Nethrim discovered that humans could be very creative when they were angry. "Remember the Murphy family?" Green whispered into her communicator as she watched another Nethrim city begin to fall from the sky. "Remember what they did to that little girl? The mechanical Zephyrite believed their computer networks were impenetrable. They had built their entire civilization on the idea that artificial intelligence was superior to organic thought. Chief Engineer Tony Martinez proved them wrong in less than an hour. Working from the computer virus his team had spent years developing, Martinez uploaded a digital plague into the Zephyrite network. The virus was designed to turn their own efficiency against them, making their machines work perfectly at destroying themselves. Within hours, the Zephyrite collective consciousness was fighting for its survival against an enemy that thought like they did but faster and meaner. But the most important part of humanity's response was still to come. On Earth, President Sarah Hayes prepared to address not just her own people, but the entire galaxy. The speech would be broadcast on every communication frequency that human intelligence had mapped, translated into every alien language they had learned. "My fellow humans," President Hayes began, her voice carrying the authority of a leader who had just unleashed humanity's full military power. "For 2 centuries, we have sought peace with our neighbors among the stars. We have hidden our true strength, hoping we would never need to use it. We offered friendship and received only contempt. We offered trade and received only raids. We offered warnings and received only laughter." The president's voice grew harder, carrying the accumulated anger of a species that had tried everything else first. Today, that changes. Today, the galaxy learns why we spent so long learning to control our anger. We are not the weak species they believed us to be. We are the children of Earth, the world that taught us to fight for survival, to adapt, and to overcome any challenge. They have awakened something that should have remained sleeping. Across human space, military commanders received their final orders. The hidden fleets began to move from their secret bases. Weapons that had been tested only in computer simulations were loaded and armed. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives for a war that might never come finally got their chance to show what humans could do when they stopped being peaceful. Admiral Morgan, now commanding humanity's entire military from the dreadnought Defiance, watched as reports of successful operations poured in from across alien territory. But the most important phase was about to begin. "Signal all fleet commanders," she ordered. "Execute Phase 3. It is time to visit their homeworlds and teach them what happens when you make humans angry." The aliens had laughed at humanity's warnings. They had dismissed human requests for peace. They had killed human children and thought it was funny. Now they were about to learn why the most dangerous enemies were not those who threatened you openly, but those who offered peace and meant it. The galaxy was about to discover what humanity looked like when they stopped trying to be nice. The news of humanity's attack spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In the crystal spires of the Vorthak homeworld, High Counselor Vrex received reports that made his crystalline form dim with shock. Half of their military fleet was gone, destroyed by ships that had appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. "Impossible," Vrex said to his advisors, his voice creating harsh echoes in the council chamber. "Humans do not possess such technology. Our intelligence reports show they have only primitive vessels." His military commander, General Thex, projected holographic images of the attack. The recording showed human ships moving with precision and speed that defied everything the Vorthak knew about human capabilities. Their weapons cut through Vorthak shields like they were made of thin glass. "The humans have been hiding their true strength," General Thex reported. "These are not the same ships we have seen before. These vessels use technology we do not recognize, combined with tactical knowledge that suggests they have been studying us for years." On the Nethrim gas world of Typhon, the floating cities continued to fall from the sky. The beings of living gas who had once ruled their atmosphere now fled, in terror as their ancient machines failed one by one. Commander Zas, one of the few Nethrim leaders still alive, sent desperate messages to the other council species. "The humans are not just attacking our military," Zas transmitted through the emergency network. "They are targeting our infrastructure, our cities, our people. They know exactly where to strike to cause maximum damage. This is not random violence, this is planned warfare." The Zephyrite collective mind was experiencing something it had never felt before. Fear. The digital virus uploaded by the humans was spreading through their network faster than their best programs could contain it. Millions of mechanical beings found their own bodies turning against them as the human-designed plague rewrote their basic programming. Darn, Unit Prime, the central consciousness of the Zephyrite species, sent out a priority signal to all council members. Human cyber warfare capabilities exceed all previous assessments. They have created a weapon specifically designed to exploit our neural architecture. Estimate total system failure within 72 hours unless countermeasures are developed. But the worst news was yet to come. Across 12 different star, Systems, the alien species were discovering that humans had been among them for years. Sleeper agents who had posed as traitors, diplomats, and researchers suddenly revealed their true purpose. Government buildings exploded. Military commanders disappeared. Communication networks went dark. The aliens realized with growing horror that while they had been dismissing humanity as primitive, human spies had been mapping their worlds, learning their secrets, and preparing for this exact moment. On the CU, neutral station of Crossroads, Ambassador Carter received a priority message from Admiral Morgan. The time for diplomacy was over, but Carter still had one final role to play. He was to deliver humanity's ultimatum to what remained of the alien leadership. Carter walked into the emergency council session with the same calm dignity he had shown months earlier when asking for protection. But now the aliens looked at him, with fear instead of contempt. The human delegation no longer seemed small and weak. They seemed like representatives of a species that had been holding back its true power. "Honored council members," Carter began, his voice carrying easily through the half-empty chamber. Many alien delegates had fled back to their homeworlds to deal with the crisis. "I come before you today not to ask for protection, but to offer terms for your survival." Counselor Vrex, his crystal form noticeably dimmer than before, spoke first. "Human Carter, your species has committed acts of unprovoked aggression against council members. These attacks violate every treaty of civilized warfare." Carter's expression did not change. "Counselor Vrex, my species has responded to systematic attacks on our civilian populations. You rejected our requests for protection. You laughed when we warned you not to test our peaceful nature. You forced us to abandon diplomacy." He activated a holographic projector that showed the current state of the war. Red markers indicated successful human operations across alien space. The scope of the coordinated attack was staggering to beings who had thought humans controlled only 7 minor star systems. "These are our terms," Carter continued. "All alien forces will immediately withdraw from human space. Full reparations will be paid for the murder of human civilians. The individuals responsible for authorizing attacks on human colonies will be surrendered for trial, and the Council will formally recognize humanity's right to exist without interference." The remaining alien delegates erupted in angry protests. Some demanded to know how humans had hidden such military capability. Others insisted that the Council would never bow to threats from a primitive species. Carter waited for the noise to die down, then delivered the words that would be remembered throughout galactic history. "You seem to misunderstand the situation," he said quietly. "This is not a negotiation, this is not a threat. This is an ultimatum. You have 72 hours to comply with our terms. If you refuse, we will demonstrate why humanity spent so many centuries learning to control our anger." High Counselor Virex rose from his seat, his crystal form flashing with rage. "And if we refuse? What can your species possibly do that you have not already done?" Carter smiled, and somehow that smile was more frightening than any weapon the aliens had seen. "Counselor Vrex, everything we have done so far has been designed to get your attention and demonstrate our capabilities. We have been precise. We have been surgical. We have shown restraint." His voice grew colder. "If you force us to abandon that restraint, you will discover that humans can be very creative when we stop caring about collateral damage." The holographic display changed, showing new images that made several alien delegates gasp in horror. Human fleets were moving toward the core worlds, the ancient centers of alien civilization that had been untouched by war for thousands of years. Ships that dwarfed anything the galaxy had seen before emerged from hidden bases in the void between stars. "We have been fighting with one hand tied behind our backs," Carter explained. "We have been trying to minimize casualties and preserve your civilizations. But if you prefer total war to reasonable surrender, we are prepared to give you what you want." Commander Richards stepped forward with a data pad containing detailed intelligence reports. "We know the location of every alien government facility, every military base, every population center. We know your leaders' names, their families, their personal schedules. We know which of your worlds depend on others for food, water, and air. We know exactly how to dismantle your civilizations piece by piece. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The aliens were beginning to understand that they had not just underestimated human military power. They had completely failed to recognize that humanity had been preparing for this war for decades, studying their enemies and planning for every contingency. Carter delivered his final words with the same calm tone he had used to request peace months earlier. 72 hours, counselors. Choose wisely. You can surrender with dignity and survive as independent species under the new galactic order. Or you can force us to show you why we tried so hard to avoid this war in the first place. As the human delegation left the chamber, the alien leaders sat in stunned silence. They had awakened something terrible, and now they faced a choice that would determine whether their civilizations survived the next 3 days. The galaxy was learning too late why humans had warned them not to make them angry. The 72 hours passed like years for the alien leaders. Emergency meetings were held on every council world as governments tried to decide how to respond to humanity's ultimatum. Some wanted to fight, believing that their combined fleets could still defeat the humans. Others argued for immediate surrender, terrified by what they had already seen of human capabilities. High Counselor Vrex called for one final council session. The great hall that had once been filled with laughter at human warnings now echoed with fearful whispers and desperate arguments. Representatives from only 8 species attended. The others were too busy dealing with human attacks on their homeworlds to send delegates. We cannot bow to these primitives, Vrex declared, his crystal form flashing with defiant light. If we surrender now, we will be slaves to human demands for generations. Better to fight and die with honor than live in shame. But even as he spoke, reports continued to arrive that weakened his argument. The Nethrim had lost 6 more floating cities. The Zephyrite Collective was fragmenting as the human virus spread through their network. Vorthak military bases across 3 star systems had gone silent. Counselor Zeth9, the mechanical being, processed the data with cold logic. Probability of successful resistance has decreased to 0.4%. Human military capabilities exceed all previous calculations. Surrender is the only logical option for species survival. As the aliens argued, Admiral Morgan's fleet approached the Council's capital world of Nexus Prime. The massive space station had been the center of galactic government for 3,000 years. Its defenses were legendary, protected by energy shields that could withstand the explosion of a small star, and defended by the combined fleets of 12 species. Captain Lisa Carter, the ambassador's daughter, commanded the assault cruiser Vengeance as the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace. In perfect formation, she had requested this assignment specifically, wanting to be present when her father's warnings finally came true. All ships, this is Admiral Morgan, came the voice over the fleet communication channel. Target the station's primary shields. Remember Captain Davis and the crew of the New Frontier. Remember the Murphy family. Remember every human who died because these aliens thought our mercy was weakness. The battle for Nexus Prime began at exactly noon, station time. The alien defenders launched every ship they had, filling space with thousands of vessels ranging from small fighters to massive dreadnoughts. It should have been an overwhelming force, more than enough to destroy any attacking fleet. But humanity had not come to fight a fair battle. They had come to end a war. The human ships moved like they were dancing, their formations flowing around alien attacks with precision that seemed impossible. Their weapons, hidden for so long, revealed themselves to be far beyond anything the aliens had imagined. Energy beams that could slice through hull metal like paper, missiles that could track their targets through hyperspace, shields that absorbed alien fire and converted it into power for human weapons. Captain Carter led her squadron through the alien defense line, her ship's experimental plasma cannons tearing gaps in the enemy formation. For the New Frontier, she called over the communication channel as her weapons destroyed a Vorthak cruiser, for every human child they killed. The battle lasted 6 hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. One by one, the alien ships fell silent. The great shields protecting Nexus Prime flickered and died as human engineers, working from intelligence gathered over years of secret preparation, shut down the defense systems from the inside. But when the station lay defenseless before them, Admiral Morgan did something that shocked the galaxy more than any weapon could have. She offered mercy. "Attention, Council members," Morgan broadcast to the station. "This is Admiral Kate Morgan of the Human Defense Force. Your defenses have fallen. Your fleets are defeated. But humanity did not come here for conquest. We came for justice." The message continued as human Marines landed on the station and secured key areas without unnecessary killing. "You will surrender the individuals responsible for authorizing attacks on human civilians. You will provide full reparations for our losses. You will acknowledge humanity's sovereignty and our right to exist in peace. Do this, and your species will survive to rebuild." In the ruined council chambers, the surviving alien leaders gathered for the final session of the old galactic government. High Counselor Vrex, his crystal form cracked and dim, looked at the human Marines standing guard around the room. These were not the weak primitives he had laughed at months ago. These were soldiers from a species that had fought its way from a single world to galactic superpower in less than a year. Commander Paul Richards, now serving as humanity's chief negotiator, presented the Treaty of Terra to the defeated council. The document was harsh but not genocidal. The alien species would survive, but they would do so knowing that humanity was no longer asking for protection. They were providing it. "This treaty establishes the new galactic order," Richards explained as the aliens read through terms that left them alive but powerless. "Any future aggression against human worlds or citizens will be met with immediate response. We sought peace. You gave us war. Now you will live with the consequences." One by one, the alien leaders signed the treaty. They had no choice. Their military forces were destroyed, their governments in ruins, their people terrified of what would happen if they refused. High Counselor Vrex was the last to sign. As he pressed his crystal appendage to the document, he looked up at Richards with something that might have been respect mixed with fear. "How?" Vrex asked. "How did a species like yours become so powerful without us knowing?" Ambassador Carter, who had returned to oversee the ceremony, answered with the same quiet dignity he had shown throughout the crisis. "We tried to tell you, Counselor. We warned you not to make us angry. You see, we learned something important during our history on Earth. The most dangerous enemies are not those who threaten you from the beginning. The most dangerous enemies are those who offer peace and truly mean it." Carter gestured toward the human fleet visible through the station's massive viewports, then to the alien leaders signing away their power. "When you force such people to abandon their peaceful nature, you get this." The treaty was signed in the ruins of the old council chambers, with human guards watching over the beings who had once dismissed humanity as primitive and weak. The galaxy had been transformed in a matter of months, not through human conquest but through human self-defense, against those who had mistaken kindness for weakness. As the ceremony ended, Admiral Morgan addressed the galaxy through every communication channel human intelligence had mapped. Her message was simple and would be remembered for generations. "Humanity has returned to peace," she announced. "We never wanted this war. We tried to avoid it through diplomacy and warnings, but when forced to defend ourselves, we did so completely. Let this be a lesson to any who might consider testing our resolve in the future. We are strongest when we choose peace, but we are most dangerous when peace is denied to us." The galaxy was quiet now. The laughter that had once greeted human warnings was gone, replaced by respectful silence and careful consideration of humanity's words. The species that had sought only the right to exist in peace had become the guardians of that peace, not through choice but through necessity. And in the end, humanity had gotten exactly what they had asked for from the beginning: the right to live without fear. They had simply been forced to take it by strength when diplomacy failed. The galaxy would not make that mistake again.